So, sorry, Mr. Worship. Usually, and I'd say most other years, an elected member or two do present our submission to Whakaaro Regional Council in person in Hamilton, and I guess it's always been seen as a respect thing. So I guess the question is, do you want anyone to do that this year?
Ms. Keane. Councillor Jollins, thank you.
Chair. I have a date.
We could work. There'll be a window of dates, so we'd work that through with whoever was putting their hand up.
I'm more than happy to do it on our behalf. And Your Worship, I'm quite happy to be a backup in case the date doesn't work for Councillor Johns.
All right, that's a good idea. Thank you very much. Item number 11, Motuapa Water Supply Extension.
Yes. Go for it.
Who's presenting this? Ramesh. Good afternoon, Ramesh. Shama, nice to see you.
Yes. Just briefly, I'll tell you, a submission was received in the last annual plan for connecting to Old Motuapa village. They are on private supply. In District Health Board has also requested Council to consult with the community who are on the private supply as a part of resource consent renewal process for our wastewater discharges. So we have done extensive consultation with the people. We're giving sufficient time. The feedback was not very favorable. And as you can see on the document, it's almost 12% are supporting, 12 people are supporting and 44 are not supporting, which comes to majority not supporting it. So my recommendation to the council is water supply should not be extended because the majority rules. I'm open to discussion if you have any questions or health concerns related issues.
Thanks, Ramesh. Yeah, I suppose it's a bit disappointing. Never mind, Councillor Cousins.
Just for the
resident.
Just for the council, I think those that really want it are very vocal, and I understand the need for it, but obviously didn't gain any weight, especially with most of them being holiday homes down there. And I think they were saying it's an expense they didn't really want. Times of year that they're there, their bore water is adequate. There's still quite a few bores down there with a high manganese content, so all the porcelain in the houses are stained yellow, and the water can be off at times, but I think they all make do with it. And when the power goes off, there's no water, and they all go home early, but they've all decided they'll grin and bear it. But commercial operators down there, which is there's 2, maybe 3, we're keen to have it. It's unfortunate, but we'll try again in a few years' time, maybe. So
yeah, actually, see, one of the coffee shop or the one of this commercial operator, which is a coffee shop there, and they were very keen, and they are really supporting on behalf of their contractors. But they are so far away, and the cost of connecting will be cost prohibitive to them. So, and majority those holiday home people have already spent $3,000-4,000, but they don't see the longer picture, that consistency and the safety. So this is how we got the feedback. So I'm open.
So there's nothing for the coffee shop or indeed the commercial operators. There's nothing you can do, really. That like there's nothing.
Yeah.
Other ideas, because the coffee guy is really stressed, isn't he? Not enough water. But,
yeah, I think it's one of those situations where we will continue to examine different options because we're acutely aware that as a commercial business, particularly at Licorice, they're very sort of motivated in terms of changing their situation. So it's not closing the door; it's just providing this community feedback and then working with those commercial players to see if there is something that can stack up for them.
Should have discussions change in the future, you can then look at it again, Ramesh, I suppose. Yeah. Yep. Cool. Thank you. Right, Councillor Hickling.
Yeah, I know that we removed them from the annual plan and the long-term plan, but how does that leave us in terms of health and safety? The new water drinking standards and such like. Sorry.
Did you hear the question? Yeah. Yes. Safety.
What position does it put council in terms of the new water standards and?
Yeah. Currently, what our treatment scheme is basic chloridation, just taking care of it's a bacteriological compliance. It's not a full compliance because the water is sourced from the lake, which is unprotected catchment. It will require a little higher level of treatment. And because compliance requirement due date is year 15-16 according to the standards. But the standard also says we have to do certain minimum and with consultation and affordability of the community. So on that basis, we will work out and go to the community saying as a part of annual plan or a long-term plan, so what is required. On that basis we can do is that, but minimum requirement is making a public health risk management plan, getting a sign off from a director, drinking water assessor, which we have done already.
You've done already?
Yeah.
Okay.
And in terms of the community drinking water standards, it's where we provide a community supply. If there is no supply, then you're not bound by those standards. Yeah.
Mr. Truman?
So I was just wondering, in the event of a fire, is there a fire hydrant there? I'm just thinking, like say in the case of Whakamaru, we didn't have a water supply as such, but we had a fire hydrant pipe put in. So I'm just wondering what will happen there if there's a fire?
Their proximity to the lake, they're right on the lake there. I would think that'd be their easiest supply.
Is there any fire hydrants down there, Ramesh?
No, because there is no reticulated supply, there will be no hydrant, like, the new Motuapa village, which is developed, has a proper hydrants and everything. But somebody is on a private supply, they are supposed to meet their own standard, and the fire people take consideration of that.
I'm just wondering was there a precedent set back then? I don't know how that came about, but there's a fire hydrant that comes around and with water there, and some people have been able to access water that way.
Yeah,
On a special levy.
it was a special levy paid, but again, the firefighting regulations, they apply to where we have a reticulated supply. And if we don't have a reticulated supply, then there's no obligation on council to provide a fire hydrant. Again, it's one of those community issues that the community needs to decide, because obviously it comes at a cost to people, and the feedback's within the paper.
Why are they against it? Cost. What do they have to pay for it?
$7 grand.
At least it's 13, isn't it? 7, 13.
7 to 13.
Yeah, I mean, as a word of advice, as you go into your 10-year planning cycle, it might be that we could run some further consultation with the people in that vicinity, and you may decide to offer, I'm not saying to waive costs, but to offer assistance with the way that it's paid for. That may be an opportunity to discuss moving forward. I'm just trying to provide options for the council. But yeah, as it stands at the moment, it's not accepted by the community.
Except if you let Bongshore Park have a go.
Okay,
Just all right. Sorry, just through you, Mr. Chairman. Is there a precedence in the area where there's been reticulated water put on, but they're not being reticulated sewage system? Because it would have an impact, wouldn't it? Having town supply water and no main sewage.
Yeah.
Is there any place in the district where that does occur?
Yes, we do have. I think Hatipi is a classic town.
Hatipi
village.
Hatipi has reticulated water.
Reticulated water, but all on septic tanks.
Yeah, I think you'd find the same up through Acacia Bay too. Parts of the upper reaches of Acacia Bay would be very similar.
Valley, yeah.
Your issue, I just need clarification as how this has come about. I noticed, Sarah, in the document you mentioned a submission. Was it one submission or was it a joint submission of, say, 12 people?
No, last annual plan we got only one submission, and then a part of the second submission was our wastewater discharge consent required as a part of condition to consult with the community again, asking them to connect it and advising them about the risk of using their unprotected bore water. And that's why the consultation occurred, because that was a part of our consulting wastewater consent as well.
Could I then ask who paid for the costings and the report and the work that was done?
Report 4?
Was it the Motuapa residents via a levy paid for it? How was it funded? General rate. So effectively we've had council expenses spent on one submission asking for something, so the next time we have one submission on an issue, we're going to go to a lot of trouble to...
No, it's more than one submission of an individual from that community. And there was a major requirement was the wastewater discharge consent issued by regional council, where the district health board was a submitter, asking the council, the condition should be the Taupo District Council should be consulting to the old Motuapa village resident, those who are on private supply. So that has also triggered to go as full consultation with the community.
So why then did they not pay for it? Why was it the ratepayers of Taupo District?
This is a part of wastewater discharge consent. So that's part of obligation on council to allow them to, because we are discharging on the land and which can go to the lake, and hence it can affect their water source as well.
And we're very poor at Motuapa. And all those things.
I guess did we did it mainly for our communications department anyway, did we? Or
No, we just did in-house. Mike prepared the consultation.
we haven't used
document.
any
We just-
external consultants to go out to get this? No.
No, it was done
So
all
it's been
in-house.
used in-house resources.
Yeah, because once we printed a letter, it's just a cost of posting them by prepaid.
Yeah, we've minimised costs to the absolute
yes.
minimum that we possibly could. The point is fairly made that the cost of compliance in New Zealand can be onerous, and we always need to keep an eye on that from a council perspective.
Okay, suggested resolution there at this stage that to not extend the lower Motuapa residents at this time. Do I have a mover for that? Moved by Councillor Cousins, seconded by Councillor Stewart. Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Against? Carried. Item number 12, Tikapui Park Reserve, licence to occupy.
Conflict of interest. I have a conflict of interest in this item, being the chair of Turangi Food Bank.
I would move that Councillor Stewart stay in the room.
Up to her. Yep. She doesn't look dodgy.
You won't be voting, so.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Stewart has announced a conflict of interest with this one, but the rest of the councillors are happy for her to stay in the room. Okay, thank you. Councillor Cousins.
I'd like to move the recommendations 1 and 2.
Okay, it's been moved. Any
I'd like to
further
second.
discussion? Seconded by Councillor Truman. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Item number 13.
Yeah.
Naming of new public roads. Mr. Greaves is making an appearance. Nice to see you, Mr. Greaves.
Thank you very much. Apologies from Louise, she couldn't make it today. She gave me a hospital pass, so I'm here to help you out. So just as a quick run through, developments occurred in between the existing Mahoe Street and Paradash Drive areas. Part of that development was putting in an extension to the existing road network and building a new road. So obviously part of that process, we're going to go through the road naming. We've gone through, looked at some options, talked to the emergency services who are the key to it, and through the naming conventions and the likes, and have proposed a solution on 13/5, which would be to extend Mahoe Street through to the existing intersection with Paradash Drive, and then the complete renaming of a new street, proposed as Mamaku Street, which is in line with the native tree theme and native tree starting with M theme around the existing industrial area. So we've talked to the emergency services and had no objections to any new proposals there. So it's over to you to make a resolution so it can be best.
Okay. Any questions or queries? Obviously, emergency services are happy with that. Not too unpronounceable.
No. And that's the criteria basically that they look at. Is there anything that's similar in the area or in the wider district? How is it pronounceable? And where does it fit in their sort of hierarchy? And it ticks all the boxes.
Okay, thanks, David.
Just through your worship, just to clarify, with these name changes, there's no current residents or commercial properties that will need to change their address?
No. So there's a number of options that we could have gone through, which would have involved changing or impact on local residents. So there's no existing properties within the proposed new street. There are some in the existing Mahoe Street, so this proposal won't affect them at all.
Right. Well, I propose.
Okay, thanks. Moved Councillor Jollins,
Yes,
seconded by Councillor Park. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Thanks, David. Item number 14, notice of motion. Councillor Body has given notice here. Cease supplying lunches for councillors.
I would move the motion and reserve at this stage the right to speak to it.
It's been moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cousins. Okay, would you like to speak to it?
The reason I brought this forward is that if we go back to prior to the election, we all stood on a platform of reducing costs, transparency, etc., etc. I feel that the provision of lunches to councillors is an impost on the ratepayers. In the 12 months to June 13, it was $6,456. Now, it might not seem a lot, but when we actually break it down, it means effectively that in the area I live, 3 houses in my area are paying for council lunches. And if you really want to see how it hits home, if you go and have a look at the rates for next year for St John's Woods Retirement Village, they were 80,000 last year, 85,000 this year, 89,000 next year, which effectively means up there are 11 persons paying $581 each to provide us with lunch. Now, I brought along with me an example of what I believe that we can do. There is my lunch, 90 cents, provided by myself, no impost to the ratepayer. Now, I'm not doing this as a take. I'm doing it so that we came in. We did not give increases to chairmen of committees. There are other areas that we will be cutting costs down as we get further into the annual plan, and I believe this is just the start to show, like Christchurch has in Wellington, that we mean what we say. So I formally move it.
Is any other discussion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Councillor Harvey?
I'd just like to know what of the 53,000 blah blah blah, what's the rest of it made up? Does anyone know what the rest of it's made up of? Can anyone tell us that?
Yeah, so the rest of it is things like the citizenship ceremonies. It'll be we've hosted other organisations. There's also, I think, in that one training where there's been training opportunities, and there's a few others which I can't quite recall, but I can certainly provide a breakdown for you.
Okay. That seems quite a lot as well to me. I'd quite like to know the whole breakdown, really, before we decide.
Okay, well, it's been moved and seconded. Anyone else got any comment?
Your wish is like, just to direct us to Councillor Bodies with respect to, obviously, you mean council meetings, workshops, etc. You mean, what do you mean by etc.? Every other function we go to, or the councillors go to, or?
In my reply, because there may be other questions, I'll reply to that at that time.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, just in response to Councillor Harvey's, not actually in response, but just to add to it, when we did the skate park opening in Turangi a few months ago, they held a function while all the celebrations were going on in the community, in the senior citizens hall. So we left the community and went and had our private function with these people, with the kamatu, and I felt very displaced. So I went in and I introduced everybody, and I left because it took us away from what I thought we were meant to be doing, which was meant to be with our people. And all very nice doing all the handshaking and stuff, but I don't know if they're all necessary. All these foodie type of things are all necessary. There is a place for them, definitely, but I think this is, as Councillor Johns and I discussed last night, this is more symbolic than anything else. I mean, it's not going to save the earth, but definitely it's a step in the right direction and showing that we mean business as a council. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and through the chair, I would agree with Councillor Cousins. I think it's more symbolic than anything else, and it's a signal that other councils are doing around the country as well, and I think it's time we walked a bit of the talk as well and brought our lunches.
Well, the other thing I would also query is do we need do we need supply of vehicles, that sort of thing. I mean, where do we start and where do we stop? That's the thing. Like, I'm happy to take, we either go the whole hog or we don't. Like, we could go on and on.
No, I don't, through the chair, in response to Councillor Harvey, I don't think we necessarily need to go the whole hog. This is just a start to show some prudence in our own spending as well, really. And I think it's a symbolic gesture, and I'd like to support Councillor Body's motion.
Because there are, I mean, I don't disagree, but there are times when we're rushing from one thing to another, and we may not have time to zap off and get something or whatever.
Okay. Thanks.
I'm a busy person. I don't have time to make it. Simple as that.
Okay. Councillor Body, everyone else?
Just very quickly to sum up, you can argue it's symbolic. I have no difficulty at the moment because when I went to Mrs. Jakes for this information, I said, just get us what the costs are to us as councillors and with you, etc. It means workshops, council meetings, etc. The other spending, for instance, the citizens thing, we had Mr. Crates farewell, I suppose, today. There are things that a council has to do in those regards. Maybe we can look at that, but we're looking just at one thing, and the $6,456 relates to lunches, nothing else. That will come as we further get into our debating on our forward expenditure.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Body. Okay, well, it's been moved and seconded.
Well, Your Worship, with that respect to that, would that we perhaps may have to make an amendment or remove the word etc. because, otherwise, where do we stand in the overall picture with providing lunches or?
Well, I'll move the notice.
I'll accept the movement of the extra.
Councillor Body's moved it. Seconded. Would I ask for all those in favour? Please say aye.
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 Those against?
No.
Against. Okay, could I have a show of hands for those for the resolution? Those against? Okay, the motion is lost. Thank you. Item number 15.
Your Worship, could you just, in accordance to that, maybe those who disagree with it, do you just reduce lunch? No, if they see it as symbolic, then just as a gesture, I don't know.
I think it's been a good idea raising this, and I think I think possibly we could have a look at that. If people don't require lunch, we'll just order less.
Yeah. We don't need a whole lot.
And I'll get Corn to coordinate that. So when we know we're going to be here all day, do you want some lunch or not? It's probably the best way around it.
I've got to say, and you all type your own opinion, but what other job pays you to have a lunch? What other job?
Other jobs usually.
I mean,
See, for my staff, if I expect them to be there for lunch, to have a working lunch, I supply it.
Yeah,
and that's what I see this as. We're all discussing meetings, we're discussing things. We don't leave when it's lunchtime, we stay in.
It's common courtesy, but when you don't need a lunch, we don't order it, Yeah.
Or do we just continue it on? We could just make it for the meeting day once a month. Doesn't have to be for any other time. It could be just the once a month.
But it is only for full days. And the other thing is, as the chair of the Emergency Management Committee, we have the group controller, etc., travel down from Hamilton. So they spend 2 hours on the road. They get here. They spend an hour to 2 hours in a meeting. And then we have this amazing networking opportunity with people from the Civil Defence Emergency Management region that we're in. And we just say, okay, thanks for coming. See you later. I think it's really nice that we get to have a sandwich and some soup or a coffee and a sausage roll, whatever, just to show some respect and give them some refreshment to get back on the road. And I really value those networking opportunities, and it is only once every 3 months, so I'd be really disappointed to have to send them on their way with just a don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Item's actually finished, but
it has finished. But obviously, there's still a bit of a discussion.
And we don't want anyone to go out of here discussing it more. We want it to be. It's.
Your Worship, I just look at today. We started at 9 o'clock. We had exactly 30 minutes break.
It
was we planned it that way. We planned it today this way. We control our agendas. We could have made it different.
Like come in for half days all the time.
No, we could have had half an hour lunch if we needed.
But we could also, now this resolution's been lost, at least look at the cost of supplying the lunches. There could be some savings just by a little bit of prudency on the food that's supplied, Your Worship.
There's nothing wrong with a cup of soup either.
Where do we get it from?
Right, Your Worship.
Where do we get it from?
Okay, item number 15. Oh, sorry, Megan.
I'd just like to say not living in Taupo, I don't get in touch with my other district councillors on a regular basis at all. I don't run into them anywhere unless it's a council thing. And so when I come up, if it's a full day and we have that lunch, then it gives me time to actually talk with my fellow colleagues and form a relationship, which I won't have. It won't happen.
Screaming
if
off
I'm
at
having
each
to
other.
rush off and go and get something to eat, or bringing something and they're rushing off to get something to eat. It just breaks that continuity of the day. And when you're here all day, I think it's really good for that team spirit to actually have something to eat and be together.
Yes, very well.
Item number 15.